Gerald once again abandoned me in the pouring rain because of another girl. He thought I would still shamelessly cling to him, refusing to let go. But he didn't know that this time, I had finally decided to give up on him. I deleted all his contact information and did everything I could to avoid him. Yet he seemed to grow unaccustomed to my withdrawal. At the school anniversary celebration, he deliberately invited the girl who had once bullied me to dance with him. Then he went on late-night dates with my roommate. In the end, he wrapped an arm around another girl and blocked me downstairs at the dormitory. Nina, are you done throwing a tantrum yet? Keep this up, and I'll really switch to a new girlfriend. I looked at him and smiled lightly. Gerald, your new girlfriend is quite pretty. I wish you happiness, truly. Chapter 1. The car screeched to a sudden halt in the heavy rain. Gerald yanked open the door and dragged me out of the back seat. I couldn't steady myself and fell awkwardly into the mud. Nina, girls as shameless as you are truly a rare sight. He looked down at me from above, sneering coldly. See that? The one sitting in the passenger seat, that's my new girlfriend. I slowly pushed myself up and wiped the muddy rainwater from my face. The rain fell even harder. My hair was soaked through, plastered against my cheeks. As the mud washed away, my entire face was revealed, small and deathly pale. A flicker passed through Gerald's eyes. He frowned slightly. Go home by yourself. Stop following me. With that, he turned to get back into the car. Gerald, with a mud-stained hand, I lightly tugged at the hem of his coat. So, we're broken up now, right? The moment the words left my mouth, laughter erupted from inside the car. His new girlfriend spoke in a sweet, delicate voice. Gerald, your ex is so hard to get rid of. Gerald laughed as well, impatiently pulling his clothes free. Nina, that's enough. I admit it, I liked you back then. But now I'm bored of you. Do you understand? I nodded. My clothes were completely soaked, icy cold against my skin. It was unbearably uncomfortable. So stop clinging to me. I only kissed you and hugged you. I didn't sleep with you. That means I don't owe you anything. Got it? I nodded again. Yeah, I understand. He said nothing more. After giving me one last look, he turned and got into the car. Chapter 2. After that night, I fell seriously ill. I lay in my dorm for 2 days before going back to class. I deleted every way of contacting Gerald. On my way to class, I always had to pass by his department. I used to look forward to running into him on campus. But now, whenever I saw his group approaching from afar, I immediately stepped aside to avoid them. Yet I don't know if it was just my imagination. Back when I tried so hard to run into him, I sometimes wouldn't see him even once in an entire week. But these past few days, I kept running into him again and again. Each time, I deliberately avoided him, until the night of the school anniversary gala. Gerald saw me with my roommate. He walked straight toward us. Nina, is Gerald going to invite you to the opening dance? He invited you last year, my roommate whispered. But Gerald didn't invite me. He didn't even acknowledge my existence. Instead, he walked past me and invited another girl. A girl who had once bullied me. A girl who had once pursued him. Chapter 3. When Gerald wrapped an arm around that girl's waist and glided into the dance floor, my fingertips had already gone completely cold. My roommate Jessica asked me cautiously, Nina, are you okay? I shook my head. I'm fine. You guys have fun. I think I'll head back first. Who Gerald likes, who he pursues, I no longer have the right to interfere. It's just that he knew perfectly well how viciously that girl had bullied me in the past. Because of it, he had once felt sorry for me, had even stood up for me and fought on my behalf. But now, it was as if he had forgotten all of it. I didn't want to cry. But the moment I walked out of the auditorium, tears still fell. What I never expected was, a week later, Gerald started dating my roommate, Jessica, every day. He gave her flowers and gifts. During class, he openly sat beside Jessica. After class, he kissed her without a care for anyone around them. Jessica started coming back to the dorm later and later. One afternoon after school, he came to pick up Jessica. As he passed my desk, he knocked over my backpack. There was an acrylic keychain attached to it, a small gift he had given me. So much time had passed that I had long forgotten to remove it. Now, the figurine shattered on the floor. Gerald raised his brows. glanced at the broken keychain, then looked at me, still keeping it, that devoted. Huh? Expressionless. I squatted down, picked up the figurine broken into 2 pieces, and tossed it straight into the trash can. As I walked away, everything behind me fell into dead silence. It wasn't until I stepped out of the classroom that I heard a heavy, dull crash, like the sound of a desk being overturned, mixed with Jessica's sharp scream. Chapter 4. The next morning, when I went downstairs, I unexpectedly saw Gerald. The girl beside him had changed again, someone unfamiliar, but very pretty. Nina. Gerald called my name. I didn't want to respond, but he stepped forward and blocked my path. Still throwing a tantrum? Keep this up, and I'll really change girlfriends. I wanted to laugh, but it felt as if my throat had been gripped tight. I couldn't make a sound. That Gerald Chan, who once cornered me in Chan's garden late at night, pressing scorching kisses onto me in the silence. That Gerald Chan, who coaxed me when I cried in fear, who swore that from then on he would only like Nina. At this very moment, he was repulsive beyond words. I stayed silent, and Gerald seemed to panic a little. Nina, as long as you don't make a fuss with me, I'll let the past go. You deleted my contact info, avoided me at school, I won't hold any of that against you. Nina. I suddenly looked up at him and smiled lightly. Gerald, your new girlfriend is quite pretty. I wish you happiness, truly. Chapter 5. Nina. I didn't turn around, nor did I stop or look back. Someone as proud as Gerald Chan, for him to come looking for me on his own today, already counted as lowering his head. From the very beginning, our positions were never equal. I shouldn't have been greedy in the first place. He was the young master of the Chan family. I was merely an orphan the Chans had kindly taken in. My father, before he passed away, had been nothing more than one of old Master Chan's drivers. All these years, my food, clothing, and shelter had all depended on the Chan family. I remembered their kindness, and I had always remembered my place. But when you're young and your heart first learns how to love, who can truly control it? Being too greedy, that was the price I deserved to pay. The only consolation now was that the Chan family didn't know about Gerald and me, and I would bury this love that ended without even beginning, letting it rot forever inside my heart. That night, I drank a lot by myself. I missed the dormitory curfew, with no other choice. I had to steel myself and return to the Chan house first. Gerald's parents were away on vacation recently, and the old master was recuperating in the mountains. With no elders at home, there was nothing to worry about. But who would have thought? Just as I stumbled drunkenly through the door, fumbling in the dark to change my shoes in the entryway, I walked past the dining room and crashed straight into someone. I was so startled I almost screamed for help. Nina? Aaron's voice sounded, and the lights turned on. When I finally saw the man in front of me, my heart nearly stopped. It took me a long moment before I stammered. You uncle. Aaron frowned slightly as he looked at me. You've been drinking? Class reunion. Just a little, I answered. I was too flustered to look at him, and too drunk to even stand steadily. Aaron glanced at me. Go sit over there. I hurried obediently to the sofa and sat down. I'll have the kitchen prepare a bowl of hangover soup. Drink it later. He was about to call someone. Panicking, I stood up. I grabbed his sleeve in a mess. Uncle, no need to trouble yourself. I'll be fine after sleeping it off. I wasn't a young lady of the Chan family. Even if the elders were kind and cared for me, I still remembered my place and never overstepped. Aaron coldly pulled his hand away. My head was spinning and my legs weak. The force of his withdrawal made my knees give out, and I fell straight to the floor. Aaron was very tall. When I dropped down, my forehead struck directly against his belt buckle. The sharp edge sliced into my skin, leaving a bloody gash. A string of blood beads immediately welled up. Clutching my wound, I cried out in pain, tears streaming down my face. Uncle! Aaron quickly removed my hand, cupped my face, and bent down to examine the injury. At that moment, unsteady footsteps suddenly came from the entryway. Then Gerald's drunken voice rang out. Nina! Nina! Aaron's expression changed slightly as he looked at me. My heart pounded wildly. I was terrified he would see something wrong. In a panic, I raised my arms and wrapped them around Aaron's waist, burying my face against his chest to block the view. Nina. Gerald had just entered the foyer when he saw his uncle bent over, holding a girl. The girl was kneeling in front of Aaron, her arms wrapped around his waist. The posture was intimate, indescribably suggestive. Gerald sobered up instantly. He hurriedly turned around, about to retreat. Chapter 6. But as he staggered, he knocked over a decorative piece on the cabinet. The noise was loud. Gerald Chon felt his breathing nearly stop. In the entire Chon family, the person he feared most was his uncle Aaron Chon, only a few years older than him. Tonight, catching him being intimate with a girl, Gerald wished he were blind. You uncle. I'm sorry. Get out. Aaron's voice wasn't loud, as calm and steady as ever, yet it made Gerald's heart pound violently. He didn't dare linger, almost fleeing as he ran. The moment the door slammed shut, Aaron coldly pushed me aside. I hurriedly distanced myself from him, not daring to lift my head. The wound on my forehead throbbed, burning like fire, yet I didn't dare reach up to touch it. I'm sorry, uncle. Just now I didn't dare say it was because I was afraid Gerald would see us. I could only stammer helplessly. Aaron looked at me sitting weakly on the floor, my gaze unfocused, my face deathly pale. The blood on my forehead hadn't dried yet, the edges of the wound already swollen and red. His expression gradually softened. Come with me, we'll treat the wound. After speaking, he turned and headed upstairs. I didn't dare delay, scrambling up with both hands and feet, but my legs were so weak, I could barely move. I had to cling to the sofa just to stand steadily. Aaron walked a few steps, then noticed I hadn't followed. He turned back to look at me. Nina. I lowered my eyes, tears trembling at the rims. I can go back to my room and apply some medicine myself. No need to trouble you, uncle. He fell silent for several seconds. As you wish. With that, he turned and went upstairs. I slowly lifted my head, watching his retreating figure. My heart was a tangled mess, but it was too late to say anything now. I could only hope that Aaron hadn't noticed anything strange earlier. I returned to my room in a daze. A short while later, there was another knock on the door. When I opened it, a servant handed me a bag. Miss Nina, these ointments were sent by Mr. Chon. I took the bag, staring at the medicine inside, momentarily stunned. Please thank uncle for me. Yes, please rest early. I watched the servant leave, my heart inexplicably aching and soft at the same time. Chapter 7. The next day, the moment I arrived at school, Gerald blocked my way. I was hungover from the night before, and with too much weighing on my mind, I hadn't slept well at all. I had no energy to get entangled with Gerald. I pretended not to see him and turned to leave. Nina. Gerald didn't chase after me, but his next sentence stopped me in my tracks. I'm planning to go home and tell my parents about us. My mind went blank. Gerald, are you out of your mind? I was shaking with anger, my hands and feet icy cold. He stepped closer instead, frowning as he looked at my forehead. How did you get hurt? That's none of your business. Answer me, why would you tell uncle and auntie? Besides, we've already broken up. There's nothing between us anymore. Who said we broke up? Gerald let out a cold laugh. Nina, when young couples date, breaking up and getting back together is normal. Didn't I come to make up with you? Then let's go back to how things were. You're still my girlfriend. Gerald smiled, malicious and cruel. Nina, if you don't obediently get back together with me, I'll tell my parents that you were the one who seduced me back then. You were so young, yet you deliberately undressed in front of me, letting me see your body on purpose. I was young and hot-blooded, being tempted by you. Of course I couldn't control myself, that's why I made a mistake. Tell me, if my parents find out that you, who always seemed so well-behaved and sensible, did something like that in private, seducing their precious son, how do you think they would treat you? Gerald, you're lying, you're despicable. I cried in fury and raised my hand, slapping him hard across the face. Chapter 8. Gerald didn't dodge. The slap landed heavily. Finger marks immediately surfaced on his cheek. I admit I went a bit too far before. I'll apologize for that. Gerald touched his face and spoke through restrained anger. Take this slap as my apology. You should be over it now, right? After speaking, he moved close and hugged me like he used to. Nina, stop fighting with me. You know I like to play around. Those girls were just for fun. How much I like you, don't you know that already? He lowered his head, trying to kiss me. My whole body trembled. I raised my hand again and slapped him across the face once more. Gerald, I would rather die than get back together with you. Say whatever you want. I didn't do it. My conscience is clear. Nina, are you sure you want to keep pushing things this far with me? Gerald's expression gradually darkened. He was the most treasured young master of the Chan family, not to mention being slapped. No one had ever laid a finger on him his entire life. Yet now, I had slapped him twice. I knew tearing things apart with Gerald would do me no good, but I was an orphan who had nothing to begin with. At worst, I would simply return to having nothing again. I'm not fighting with you, Gerald. I just want to tell you this. The night you pushed me out of the car, we were completely over, and I don't like you anymore. I raised my hand and wiped away the tears that had spilled over. If you want revenge, then go ahead. Everything I have today was given by the Chan family. If you take it all back, I won't hold any resentment. Nina, don't force me. You know that from childhood till now. Anything I, Gerald, have wanted, I've never failed to get. But I'm also a living, breathing person, Gerald. No matter how lowly I am, I will never continue to like you. After being trampled on by you again and again. Chapter 9. I knew that if I did this, Gerald would definitely not let me off easily. But no matter what, I never expected him to do something so utterly deranged. When I received Aunt Chan's phone call, I had just walked out of the library. It was noon. The sunlight was so warm it made people drowsy. Yet I felt as if I had fallen straight into an icy abyss. Nina, the driver is waiting outside the school gate right now. Come back for a bit. Auntie, is something wrong? Aunt Chan's voice was unusually cold and distant. Just come back first. We'll talk then. I walked out of the school gates in a state of unease. The entire ride, my mind was in chaos, thinking of the things Gerald had said before. My heart sank deeper and deeper into despair. After I secretly started dating Gerald, things really were sweet at first. I was new to love, while Gerald was experienced in relationships. Whatever he asked me to do, I would feel shy, yet still obediently comply. If Gerald told the elders that I was the one who had seduced him, I didn't dare imagine how I would face the elders who were usually so kind and generous to me. I also had no face left to continue living in the Chan household. Chapter 10. Just as I had expected, after returning to the Chan house, the moment I stepped into the living room, Aunt Chan threw a stack of photos in front of me. In the photos, my hair was soaking wet, and I was wearing a man's white shirt. Facing the camera, I smiled, young, shy, and yet subtly alluring. I remembered this clearly. That day, Gerald and I had come back from a date, and were caught in the rain. Both of us were drenched. Gerald suddenly got an idea, and handed me one of his shirts, telling me to wear it after showering. I listened to him back then, and obediently put it on. He seemed to really like how I looked that way. That night, he kept kissing me, almost losing control. Later, he used his phone to take many photos of me. Nina, I'm going to keep these photos for myself. No one else is allowed to see them. He even created a private album, filled entirely with my photos. Nina, you've really disappointed me. Aunt Chan was clearly furious. Her expression was terribly grim. I've always treated you like my own daughter. All these years, I've never treated you poorly. How could you privately send such photos to Gerald? I stared at the photos, utterly speechless. I had agreed to wear the clothes myself. I had agreed to let the photos be taken. Besides, no one in the family knew about my relationship with Gerald Chan. Aunt Chan had already decided that I was the one who had seduced Gerald. How could I explain? The Chan family had raised me all these years. My food, clothing, and living conditions were no different from those of a rich young lady, having received such immense kindness. Even repaying it by serving as cattle or horse would not be excessive. Why should I make uncle and auntie lose face? Auntie, this is my fault. I had feelings I never should have had. I squatted down and picked up all the photos. Please rest assured, Auntie, I've thought it through. I will never do such shameless things again. I'll move out of the Chan house today. All these years, the care and kindness the Chan family has shown me, I have remembered it all. I will never forget it. Uncle and Auntie. I took a deep breath, holding back the tears that were about to spill over, and bowed deeply. I failed to live up to your expectations. I'm sorry. I bowed again. Uncle and Auntie. I'll go pack my things and move out right away. Chapter 11. After saying that, I turned around and was about to go upstairs. But at a glance, I saw Aaron standing not far away. I didn't know when he had come back. His suit jacket was still draped over his arm. I had no idea how much of what was said earlier he had heard. But at that moment, I had no time to care about any of that. I just wanted to leave as quickly as possible. So I only nodded hastily and greeted him perfunctorily. Hello, Uncle. What happened? Aaron spoke up instead. Nothing. I'm going upstairs now. If nothing happened, then why are you crying? Only then did I realize that after I had turned around earlier, my tears had already burst out uncontrollably. As Aaron spoke, he directly took the photographs from my hand. I wanted to snatch them back, but when I met his gaze, I didn't dare to reach out. Just like Gerald, the person in the Chan family I feared most was also him, even though back then, it was he who suggested that the Chan family adopt me, giving me a place to stay and so many years of stable life. Because of these photos? Aaron looked toward the two people behind me. Big brother, sister-in-law. This matter with the photos isn't Nina's fault. What? Aaron glanced at me and handed the photos back. These photos were taken by me, for Nina. Aaron? Uncle. But Gerald said. Gerald and Nina had a fight a few days ago. Aaron smiled faintly. That kid held a grudge and deliberately played a prank on Nina. Aunt Chan immediately let out a sigh of relief, but then looked at Aaron in confusion. But Aaron, why would you take photos like this of Nina? Yes, Aaron, Nina is still a child. Uncle Chan also spoke up with some disapproval. My whole mind was already in a daze. I stared at the man in front of me in disbelief, until Aaron walked over to me and took my hand. She's already 21 now. What kind of child is that? Aaron lowered his gaze and gently brushed the top of my head. Dating doesn't count as a mistake, does it? Chapter 12. Things ended in a very strange way. For no clear reason at all, I became Aaron's little girlfriend. Aunt Chan apologized to me and scolded Gerald at the same time. He's really becoming more and more lawless now, isn't he? He used to bully Nina before, and now he actually dares to pull such a prank. Nina is a girl, how important a girl's reputation is. This time I must teach him a harsh lesson. Gerald really has gone too far. All the while, Aaron kept holding my hand. Big brother, sister-in-law, how about letting him come to the company and follow me to gain some experience first? Aunt Chan was overjoyed at once. That's wonderful. Aaron, if he's in your hands, I'm completely at ease. Discipline him as harshly as you need. Don't hold back. Don't worry, Aaron replied. Then he added, I'll take Nina out. We won't be having dinner at home tonight. Once we got into the car, Aaron finally let go of my hand. He instructed the driver to drive, then asked me calmly, What do you want to eat? Anything is fine. Aaron gave the driver an address and then raised the partition in the car. Nina. He turned his head to look at me. I remember when you first came to the Chan family. You were only 9 years old. Yes. I paused, then subconsciously looked at him. Uncle, when did you start dating Gerald? 1 year ago. But I've already broken up with him. Do you still like him? I was silent for a moment. My chest hurt slightly, but I still shook my head gently. I don't like him anymore. Aaron nodded faintly and looked at me again. Are you sure? I nodded. I'm sure. Tomorrow, move out of the Chan family's old residence. Pack your things. I'll have someone come pick you up. Uncle. Where are you taking me? To my place. But Your current identity is my girlfriend. B, but this is fake. I know you were just helping me out of an awkward situation. You're unwilling? And no, that's not it. It's just that you're my uncle. An elder. Nina, I'm only Gerald's uncle. In terms of age, I'm only 8 years older than you. Aaron lowered his gaze at me, and if I remember correctly, you were the one who approached me first. Thinking of what happened that night, I truly had nothing to say in response. Seeing my reaction, he softened his tone again. Besides, if you live with me, Gerald won't dare to keep harassing you. This is just a temporary measure. Think it over carefully. Chapter 13. I moved into Aaron's place. That house was quite a bit closer to my school. Aaron was usually very busy, so on weekdays I still lived in the dorm. Only on weekends would he come pick me up and take me back. A few days earlier, Gerald had already been arranged by him to intern at the company. He was directly assigned overseas. Because he feared Aaron, he didn't dare slack off with work matters, so he was busy from morning till night, and had no time to come harass me anymore. A month later, when he returned from his overseas business trip, and rushed to the school to look for me, I was just getting out of Aaron's car. Bye, Uncle. I waved at him and was about to leave. From the very first day I arrived at the Chan family, I had always called him that. In this past month, I hadn't seen him often, and of course I hadn't managed to change the habit. But Aaron called out to me. Nina, do you still need something? I asked. I took 2 steps back toward the car. Aaron reached out and grabbed my wrist, applying slight force. Before I could react, I was pulled straight into his arms. Uncle, I panicked a little, afraid that passing classmates would see. Change how you address me. Aaron brushed the slightly messy hair at my temple. Call me by my name from now on. But I couldn't say it. Someone I'd called uncle since childhood, how could I possibly dare to call his name directly? I'll pick you up tonight. He let go, and I hurriedly stood properly, but then my arm was suddenly yanked hard by someone else. Nina! Gerald's eyes looked as if they were shooting fire. What are you doing? You even dare to seduce my uncle? Chapter 14. Gerald. Aaron got out of the car and grabbed his wrist. Let go. Uncle, look at what Nina is doing. Aaron cut him off. If nothing unexpected happens, in 2 years, when Nina graduates, you'll need to change how you address her. Aaron looked at Gerald with a grave expression. You'll be calling her your little aunt. So, starting from this minute, he continued, treat her with respect. Gerald was clearly stunned. I also looked at Aaron in disbelief. Nina, go back to the dorm first. She can't go. Gerald completely lost control. He clutched onto me and refused to let go. Uncle, Nina is my girlfriend. This joke really isn't funny. No one is joking with you. Aaron's cold gaze fell on Gerald's hand. Take your hand off her. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. Gerald kept shaking his head. I get it now, Nina. You're doing this on purpose, right? You're deliberately trying to make me angry, aren't you? Seeing that he wouldn't let go of me, Aaron couldn't be bothered to say more. He spoke coldly and called his assistant over. Take him away. Gerald still tried to struggle, but Aaron shot him a dark look. Try making a scene again. Gerald was extremely unwilling, but in the end, he still didn't dare to continue. Chapter 15. Only after seeing him get into the car did Aaron walk back to my side. Don't overthink it. I'll handle this. Okay. I understand. I'll come pick you up tonight. Go on up. After saying that, Aaron watched me enter the dorm building before getting back into the car and leaving. As soon as I entered the dorm, Jessica turned away with a cold face and walked out. She had dated Gerald for half a month before being dumped. Only after the breakup did Jessica come to her senses. She realized she had probably been used as a pawn. Gerald had deliberately used her to provoke me. After learning the truth, it was inevitable that she felt some resentment toward me. Actually, I wanted to reconcile with her, because Jessica was one of the first good friends I made in college. We had always gotten along very well. If it weren't for Gerald, we wouldn't have fallen out at all. Nina, do you think the two of you can still make up? To be honest, that Gerald is such a jerk. It's not surprising that Jessica's angry. I thought so too. A young girl like Jessica, how could she possibly withstand the advances of someone like Gerald? I'll go find her and have a good talk. Yeah, you should really talk it out. After all, you're in the same dorm. I talked with Jessica for a long time. She still had some lingering resentment toward me, but overall, she was willing to mend our relationship. That night, Aaron came to pick me up as promised. He had probably been out socializing and had drunk quite a lot. I had just gotten into the car and hadn't even had time to greet him. When Aaron pulled me toward him, I hurriedly tried to push him away, but he held on even tighter. Nina, you uncle, you've had too much to drink. I am drunk, but I'm very clear-headed. His slightly intoxicated eyes fixed on me, the look in them gradually softening. Is it okay? I didn't speak, but I didn't shake my head either. Over this period of time, I had slowly changed my view of him. I had even gone from feeling awkward around him at first to gradually looking forward to spending more time with him. Aaron pulled me into his arms. He lowered his head and kissed me. Chapter 16. Between our lips was a strong scent of alcohol. I didn't drink, so it only felt harsh and spicy to me. I shook my head and tried to push him away. Aaron opened his eyes and glanced at me, then didn't continue. He simply, a little wearily, buried his face against my neck. Nina. His voice was a bit hoarse as he tugged uncomfortably at his tie. My head hurts. Somehow, the fear and distance I usually felt toward him seemed to loosen slightly in this moment, because of his rare show of vulnerability. Then, should we go to the hospital and see a doctor? No hospital. He shook his head, then held me again, shifting into a more comfortable position. The smell of hospitals makes it worse. Then what should we do? I've seen you massage the old master before. Aaron lifted his gaze to look at me. I want that too. The driver in the front couldn't help laughing softly, then quickly shut his mouth. I couldn't help muttering quietly, Uncle, are you really drunk or not? This was nothing like the usual Aaron at all. I gathered my courage and gently pressed my fingers against his temples. If it's uncomfortable, just say so. After a while, when he didn't speak, I asked softly again, Uncle, is this pressure okay? A moment later, Aaron suddenly raised his hand and grasped my wrist. Don't talk. It's noisy. I instinctively held my breath and increased the pressure in my hands a little. In the dim, drowsy car, the corner of Aaron's lips seemed to curve into a very, very faint smile. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have thought I was imagining things. Chapter 17. After that day, the relationship between Aaron Chan and me seemed to grow a little closer. When I used to live at the Chan family house, I was very afraid of him. Every time I saw him returning from far away, I would immediately dodge him like a cat avoiding a mouse. But now that we were living under the same roof, I would occasionally even dare to talk back to him a little. He was extremely busy on weekdays, but every Friday night, without fail, he would come pick me up. Although we lived in the same house, we always slept in separate rooms. Aaron had a cool, restrained temperament. He was also a gentleman who exercised strict self-discipline and propriety. Aside from the 2 weekend nights, when he would ask for a goodnight kiss, there were not many intimate gestures. As I spent more time with him, I gradually relaxed. For the first time in more than 10 years, I felt a kind of ease and comfort, a feeling of being at my own home. Every elder in the Chan family treated me well, but children who live under someone else's roof are always sensitive and prematurely mature. At the Chan family, I never lacked food or clothing. Yet I had never truly felt a sense of belonging, not even during those few months when Gerald and I were deeply in love. When he treated me better than anyone else ever had, that feeling had never appeared. But with Aaron, it did, and I didn't know when it started, without even realizing it myself. I began to look forward to Fridays. I looked forward to seeing his car parked downstairs. I looked forward to opening the car door and seeing him there. I looked forward to curling up with him on the living room sofa to casually watch a movie. And to those 2 nights' goodnight kisses. I really liked the way he called me Nina. There was a softness to it, an intimate warmth that made my heart melt. It was as if I had become a child again, able to be a little willful, without worrying that others would dislike me or drive me out of the house. Chapter 18. Just before summer vacation, Aaron had to go on a business trip to France for half a month. He originally planned to take me with him, but I happened to have an important exam at that time. so I couldn't go with him. On the day I finished the exam, Jessica invited everyone in our dorm to go out singing karaoke that night to relax. I went back to the dorm, took a shower, and while waiting to blow dry my hair, I made a video call to Aaron. It took him a little while to answer. In the video, Aaron was wearing a dark navy shirt, sitting in what looked like an office, counting the days. He still had 3 days before returning, but ever since the second day of his business trip, I had already started missing him. Getting ready to go out? In a bit, I'm going singing with my roommates. We might drink a little, then I'll send a car to take you there, and another to bring you back when you're done. No need to go through all that trouble. It's just my roommates and classmates. How did the exam go? Not bad. Looking at Aaron on the screen, I couldn't help raising my hand and lightly touching his face through the image. Uncle, you're coming back the day after tomorrow, right? Do you want me to pick you up? Aaron laughed softly. You driving? I puffed up my cheeks and glared at him. I got my driver's license right after the college entrance exam. Okay? All right then, you can come pick me up. Then I'm going to dry my hair now. Nina, is there something else? Uncle? On the screen, Aaron's brows relaxed as he looked at me. For a fleeting moment, I even sensed a trace of tenderness. Call me when you get back tonight. I know. I brought you a gift. On the screen, I smiled so brightly that my eyes curved into crescents. Thank you, Uncle. You're the best. Go on, dry your hair properly, or you'll catch a cold. Roger. Chapter 19. On the way to the karaoke gathering, I felt an almost giddy sense of happiness, as if my mood had taken flight. Because of that, I ended up drinking a little too much during the party. Since there were mostly girls, what we ordered was mainly beer, fruit wine, and some low-alcohol cocktails. But because everything was mixed together, I soon started to feel dizzy. At that moment, Jessica walked over with a glass in her hand. Nina, she handed the drink to me. Have one. Holding my throbbing head, I grinned foolishly at her. So if I drink this, does that mean we're good again? Jessica laughed softly. Yeah, once you finish this, we're good. I didn't hesitate. I took the glass and downed it in one go. Jessica finished hers in one gulp as well. Want to go out and talk? She suggested. The private room was noisy, howling and shouting everywhere. There really was no way to talk properly. I followed Jessica out. This room is empty. Let's go sit for a bit. She led me to the end of the hallway and pushed open the door to a private room. But I didn't step forward. Jessica. She turned back to look at me. The smile on her face slowly faded away. If I'm not mistaken, there's someone inside this room, right? My head was pounding badly. I barely managed to steady myself against the wall. Both parents dead since childhood, fostered in the home of my father's former employer, and Nina, who grew up trembling with caution, could never be a naive, defenseless fool. Nina, don't blame me. Jessica walked over and grabbed my arm. Gerald told me to bring you here. If I didn't do it, he said he'd post my photos online. On her pale face appeared a bitter smile. I really did like him, but he truly never liked me. I'm not doing this for him. I'm doing it for myself. Nina, I'm not like you. Without parents, I can't afford this kind of scandal. My parents can't afford it either. She yanked me hard and shoved me into the room. When I tried to struggle, Gerald's hands were already locked tightly around me. Jessica let go, her expression blank and dazed. Jessica, I called out helplessly, but she had already closed her eyes and shut the door behind her. My vision plunged into darkness. Gerald's body pressed tightly against me from behind, the heavy stench of alcohol engulfing me. Nina, I should have had you long ago. I shouldn't have cared back then that you were too young and left you untouched. I struggled desperately, but Gerald's strength was terrifying, and my body was gradually heating up. Slipping out of control, he forced my body around so that I was facing him, then lowered his head and kissed me fiercely. I wanted to shove him away with all my strength, but inside my body there was a violent, overwhelming desire screaming, taking control of me. My uncle is a clean freak. Gerald sneered. Nina, once I've slept with you, he'll never want you again. In this lifetime, even if you die, you'll die in my hands. Chapter 20. My dress was torn apart, and cold air rushed in instantly. My mind, already ravaged by the drugs and alcohol, had completely lost its clarity. Yet in that moment, it granted me a few seconds of lucidity. When Gerald lowered his head to kiss me again, I gathered all my strength and slammed my knee upward into him. But what I thought was all my strength was, to Gerald, nothing more than a minor annoyance. He only let out a muffled groan before once again reaching out and choking my neck. Nina, when did you hook up with my uncle right under my nose? For so many years, countless women tried to climb into his bed, and he ignored every single one. Why you? He knew you were dating me. That handsome face of Gerald's was now slightly twisted with rage. I couldn't breathe. I clawed desperately at his hand. Only when I was on the verge of suffocation did Gerald suddenly let go. Then he flung me hard onto the sofa. Just as his body was about to come crashing down on me, the private room door was suddenly kicked open from the outside. I felt the weight on me vanish. Then came the dull thud of a heavy body hitting the floor, followed by Gerald's pained scream. And then, Aaron's handsome face, barely containing his fury, appeared in my vision. His suit jacket fell over me, wrapping around my nearly bare body. Nina, he bent down and lifted me into his arms, as I fell against his chest, completely enveloped by his scent and presence. I knew for certain that I was safe, unable to hold back. I buried my face into his chest, tears pouring down uncontrollably. Uncle, how did you get here? Wasn't he supposed to be in France? Wasn't he supposed to come back in 3 days? I finished my work early, so I came back ahead of schedule. Aaron tightened his arms around me slightly. It's okay, my good girl. It's over. Aaron Chan. It seemed to be the first time I had ever called his name, his full name. His steps paused for a brief moment. I felt him lower his head, and a gentle kiss fell softly on my forehead. Chapter 21. Once we got into the car, I started making a scene, but it really wasn't my fault. There was no telling what Jessica had put into that drink. I just felt unbearably hot all over, like ants were biting me everywhere. By the time the car was almost at the hospital, I had nearly stripped Aaron bare. My body temperature was too high, which only made his body feel especially cool. So cool that I wanted nothing more than to press myself completely against him. Aaron was being rubbed against non-stop and looked helpless. He pinched the bridge of his nose and shook his head. Nina. I was sprawled in his arms, clinging to him with both hands and legs. Aaron, give me a kiss. I cupped his face and leaned down to kiss him. It felt like a fire was burning in my throat. His lips were faintly cool, carrying a light hint of mint between them. I couldn't help wanting more. Aaron. I want water. I'll get it for you. He tried to push me away, but I only wrapped my arms tighter around his neck. No need to get it. You already have it. Chapter 22. Aaron wrapped me in his coat and carried me back to the room. Go take a shower first. He carried me into the bathroom. He deliberately set the water temperature a little lower. At first, I felt somewhat better, humming softly and no longer clinging to him. But less than 5 minutes after I came out of the shower, my body started burning up again. Aaron's shirt and trousers were dampened by water. The thin fabric clung to his chest and abs, the muscle lines far too tempting. I stared so hard my eyes practically widened, unable to help myself. I clung to him again, my hands roaming all over. This time, Aaron didn't pull me away. Instead, he lifted me directly onto the sink, pinched my chin, and kissed me deeply. By the time I was completely dizzy from the kiss, he leaned close to my ear and asked softly, Nina, does it still feel bad? It does. Do you want to feel a little better? I nodded vigorously. Aaron lifted me into his arms. Hold on tight. Chapter 23. But there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. If you want to feel good, you have to suffer a little first. I almost kicked Aaron off the bed. Yet I was the one feeling utterly wronged. You're a liar. You're bullying me. Aaron restrained my flailing leg. With one hand, he pinned both of my wrists above my head. He leaned down, and when he smiled, there was an unmistakable hint of wickedness in it. I am bullying you. That smile left me completely dazed. And just like that, I was thoroughly bullied by him all night long. Gerald stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks. That night had been especially unlucky for him. He was kicked to the ground by his own uncle, breaking 2 ribs. As soon as his injuries healed a bit, he was packed up and sent overseas. As for Jessica, Aaron asked for my opinion. I hesitated for a long time if I pursued the matter to the end. What she had done, drugging my drink, was no small thing. It carried criminal responsibility. She wouldn't be able to graduate, and her record would bear a permanent stain. But I wasn't a saint. In the end, I decided to call the police and hand the matter over to them. The police results were not made public. I only knew that not long after, Jessica was expelled from the university and ordered to withdraw. On the day her parents came to take her away, I was also on campus. As she left the dorm with her family, she cried uncontrollably. I felt a bit uncomfortable inside as well. But no matter what, when you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. When Aaron called me, he could tell that I was in a bad mood. That evening, he drove to pick me up and took me home. That night, he didn't take me out for a fancy dinner. Instead, he cooked himself steak and pasta. We also drank a little red wine together. Later, when we were cooling off on the terrace, I asked him, "Did you like me a long time ago?" Aaron swirled his wine glass. "I'm not that perverted." I couldn't help laughing. "I didn't mean years ago." Aaron lowered his head and took a sip of wine. "Before you secretly started dating Gerald." Chapter 24. Then why didn't you tell me? Aaron set down his wine glass and reached out his hand to me. I took his fingers and leaned back into his arms. "If I hadn't broken up with Gerald, were you planning to never say anything for the rest of your life?" "No." Aaron gently stroked my hair. "The moment I realized you weren't happy being with him, I wavered." "When did you realize that?" "One night. I came back very late. You were hiding alone in the garden pavilion, crying. I heard you calling Gerald over and over again, but no one answered. In the end, you were directly blocked. I thought you would cry even harder, but you didn't." At this point, Aaron paused. He held me a little tighter, his voice lowering. "Not only did you stop crying, you even muttered something to yourself." "What did I say?" Aaron lowered his head and kissed me lightly. "You said, 'It's no big deal, Nina. It's not like this is the first time you've been abandoned. There's nothing to cry about.'" My tears fell silently. What I said was the truth. After my mom divorced my dad, it was my dad who raised me alone. When I was little, I hated my mother, hated that she abandoned me. But later, when I heard she had died of illness, my heart still hurt terribly. And then later, my dad left me too. From childhood until now, I've been facing goodbye after goodbye. So later on, when I grew up, things like heartbreak didn't feel all that painful to me. It was like I'd already gotten used to living alone, with no one. That won't happen anymore. Aaron gently patted my back. "Nina, from now on, I'll be with you." "Aaron, why do you like me?" Aaron looked down at my tear-soaked eyes. "At first, it was probably pity. You were such a little girl. Suddenly an orphan, it was heartbreaking. Later on, watching you grow up day by day, always walking on thin ice yet pretending nothing was wrong, made my heart ache for you. But pity and heartache aren't romantic love between a man and a woman." Aaron gave a soft laugh. "Then later, when I found out you and Gerald were secretly dating, I didn't sleep well for half a month straight. That's when I knew something was already wrong. Then if you liked me, why were you so angry that night when I got drunk and hugged you?" "I thought you were deliberately using me to provoke Gerald." "I'm not that childish." I poked his chin. "I stopped liking him a long time ago." "Then what about me?" I felt a little dazed as I looked at Aaron Chan in front of me. Yet in my mind, I seemed to see again the boy from more than 10 years ago. Slender and handsome, standing straight like a young poplar tree, striking and composed. The Chan family living room had been full of people. There was a white flower pinned to my chest. My father's funeral had just ended. They were discussing what should be done with me. An orphan. My father had died in the line of duty. The Chan family had good values. An old Master Chan was a kind and benevolent man. He had personally helped arrange my father's funeral. The old master had even specially arranged for someone to open a bank account for me, depositing all of the compensation money into it. Back then, some distant relatives suddenly appeared, wanting to adopt me. In fact, for the Chan family, That would have been the least troublesome arrangement. Gerald's parents also had that intention. I was only 9 years old at the time, but I vaguely understood that I would probably be taken by this unfamiliar aunt and uncle to another province. I had never met these relatives before, yet now they were suddenly showing kindness. The looks on their faces made even a child like me feel uncomfortable. Presumably, it was because of the 2 million in compensation money the Chan family had given, but at 9 years old, I was powerless, like a piece of floating duckweed. I could only drift with the current, letting others decide my fate. Then Aaron suddenly spoke up. Let her stay with the Chan family. It's just one more pair of chopsticks. We can afford to raise her. After all, her father died while handling matters for the Chan family. If we raise her, it'll also earn the Chan family a good reputation. After saying that, he walked over to me and took my hand. Nina, do you want to stay? At that moment, I was terrified, like a startled bird. But when Aaron held my hand, it was as if my drifting boat instantly reached shore. Deep down, I felt that this uncle with no blood relation to me was far more reassuring than those so-called distant aunt and uncle. I cried and nodded, clutching his hand and refusing to let go. Aaron wiped away my tears. Then stay with the Chan family. He was greatly favored in the Chan household. Old Master Chan liked this youngest son the most, so much like himself. Intelligent and steady, he rarely made requests. And now that he had spoken, the old master naturally wouldn't embarrass him and immediately agreed. And so, I stayed with the Chan family, the daughter of a driver, yet raised like half a young lady, living in comfort and care. My fate was rewritten because of Aaron. After all the twists and turns, this man whom I once timidly called uncle, became my boyfriend and gave me a home. My eyes grew warm. Aaron, thank you. Nina, you know what I want to hear. I wrapped my arms around his neck, not letting him see how ugly I looked while crying. He would never know that. When I was young, I often dreamed, and when the figure in those dreams took shape, it always became Aaron. Later, as I grew older, my courage only shrank. The person I believed I could never touch for the rest of my life was someone I naturally didn't dare to desire. So I deliberately forgot those feelings. Completely. A young girl's budding affection was cut off before it could fully grow. Fortunately, fate was kind, now it had been rekindled. Aaron, carry me back to the bedroom. I'll tell you slowly. All right. Aaron picked me up, resting against his shoulder. I felt his heartbeat, so it turned out that every love leaves traces behind. Back then, 17-year-old Aaron held the hand of 9-year-old Nina. Now, 21-year-old Nina was willing, with all her heart, to promise him her entire life.